This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is a Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And today, we are going to be talking about the Kyrie minimally invasive surgery that he is having, which just announced today. We're also going to be talking about the Phoenix Suns building around Devin Booker. They just started their coaching hiring process, their search, thank you. And now we are also going to be talking and wrapping it up with Jake, our patron, talking about the Atlanta Hawks and which prospects best fit them in the NBA draft. And of course, we're going to throw in our wet boys as well. But before we do that, check out patreon.com/mostofitpodcast. If you want to be like Jake and be on one of our podcasts, whether it's the Onside Kick, the Primetime Podcast, the Rick and Johnny Podcast, go over to patreon.com/mostofitpodcast and check it out. We have some great stuff over there. Again, the $10 tier, we can be on a podcast. The $5 tier, we can be part of the Q&As, and also the $2 and $1 podcast. You can get a monthly Patreon podcast. The $2 will give you the video. The $1 will give you the audio. We'd love and completely appreciate your support over there. If you can't support us monetarily, we completely understand. You can also check out iTunes and give us a 5-star rating over there. It's extremely helpful for our cause. If you want to go over to the Fast Break, give that 5 stars. The Onside Kick, 5 stars. Primetime Podcast, 5 stars. The Rick and Johnny, 5 stars as well. And also the new podcast, The Outcast, which you should definitely check. It's the Chicago sports podcast. I'm going to be talking Bulls, Bears, Sox, Cubs. Probably not the Fire.
And this week, I just want to say, a little spoiler, they did a cool segment where it's like their Take 5, where it's like, but let's say we did, it's like, oh, you're 5 guys that could be like the ones to watch in the playoffs. It should be a good segment moving forward.
There you go. And then also, the final thing, go over to mostvaluablepodcast.com and check out the shirts, because Buzz and Juice just rocked the
Juice
MVP shirts. Juice over there.
I think they are the first tag team to wear
They doubled up?
The doubled up. Because usually we try to be like, hey, are you wearing it? Okay, I won't wear it because you're wearing it kind of.
They called each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, they called each other and decided what to wear.
Twinsies.
But anyways, let's jump into the podcast. We're talking about Kyrie Irving coming out from ESPN. They say that All-Star Kyrie Irving will undergo what the team is referring to as a minimally invasive surgery on Saturday with the hopes of combating soreness in his left knee. They've been saying that he's been dealing with this for a while. There's no timetable for his return. But I was listening to a couple people's takes today. Doug Gottlieb said something that, at least filling in for Cowherd, that I kind of I kind of sided with. It's something that when it happens, Celtics are going to come out and say, "Oh, it went totally fine, no problems, it was perfect, better than we expected," just to really give the hope to Celtics fans. Again, minimally invasive sounds nice, but anytime you're dealing with a knee, it's going to take away explosiveness. It's going to take away cutting ability. How worried should Celtics fans be about this injury, Ricky?
Well, at first, when I saw the article at work, I was like, you know what? This is going to be fine, minimally invasive. He'll be okay for the playoffs. But then I was watching PTI today, and Wilbon was like, yeah, I had minimally invasive knee surgery a year ago that I'm still trying to rehab over, and I'm not an athlete. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's a little bit to this. And the thing I look at is, if this does keep Kyrie out, I wouldn't be like, oh, they're out in the first round, but could be out in the second round. And then if you, depending how things go, I say out in the second round because they could play Cleveland in that round. But let's say they play Cleveland in the next round because of how the seeding, let's see how it ends. I don't think they get past the Cavs without Kyrie on that court, because they couldn't do it last year without Isaiah Thomas, and now they don't have Jay Crowder, they don't have Avery Bradley. And you don't have Kyrie, which is a big one.
No Gordon Hayward as well, because he's been officially they said that he's not going to come.
Season.
Yeah, that he's not going to come back as well. So you're going to be down 2 of your stars. You're not going to have Isaiah Thomas, like you mentioned. The one thing though with the Wilbon thing, Wilbon's 60+ years old. Kyrie Irving's 27, 25, 26.
25.
Yeah, 25, young kid. So I mean, he's got better knees, he's got better muscles, he's got the ability to regenerate quicker than Michael Wilbon.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that it's definitely going to be worrisome. The question that we're posing, though, Dave, are they done in the East? So obviously they're going to be making the playoffs. They're locked up and secured that spot. But are they done? Will it be first round possibly, like Ricky mentioned? He said he's not going to be. It's not going to be first round. But you look at Miami. This is a deep team and a very well coached team in Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah, no, it absolutely could be done in first round. I think that the problem is with Kyrie. I just am so concerned about is there a need to rush him back this season? Your money really was on bringing in Gordon Hayward. and the core being around, these two main studs on your team with Al Horford and that young talent. So I don't know that there's necessarily a rush to come back this year, to force it. I think they're rolling with the talent they've got. I think the expectations definitely are different without Kyrie there. And I think you go round one and you're probably like toss up. Honestly, I think it's a straight toss up. We've seen a lot of growth out of JT. We've seen Terry Rozier really step up his game late in this season. So I think you run with the young roster. Let them get their feet wet in the playoffs. Let them get some comfortable. And next year, you go for it. You've got the guys on the roster to go for it.
Well, and real quick, it is Kyrie's birthday today. He's just turned 26, so happy birthday, Kyrie. Weirdly enough,
sad news,
I wanted to check it out. But yeah, turned 26, so happy birthday, Kyrie. Some rough news, but he's got the Uncle Drew movie. He's still going to be hopefully able to play. I think it's something that I don't think he's going to be held out for the playoffs. Knowing them, I think they probably would have went with it because it's a nagging injury, but I don't think it was anything that, again, we don't know the severity of it, but I don't think it was anything that was going to hold him out from playing. This is just trying to get him better and at least, getting over the pain. So I think it's something that he's going to test out. I think maybe he might be out for the rest of the regular season, but I think come playoff time, Kyrie's going to be out there. That's going to be the thing, though, is we've seen, hey, we'll look at the college kids. Michael Porter Jr. wasn't 100%, did not look like the same player. We saw, plenty of years. Steph Curry, when he came back with ankle injuries, he wasn't the same Steph out there. So we know that it's going to be definitely a game changer. But with the Boston team, again, like Dave mentioned, Ricky, this is a team that is not really built around one player. It is more of a team mentality. But how much can that team mentality get you through the Eastern Conference Finals?
If I'm on the thing listening to Dave was when you were saying like let the young players roll in. If I'm a Boston fan, I'm sitting there going, no, I'm not good. Like, I'm not okay with that because if I'm a Boston fan, I'm feeling this was the year. The Cavs aren't as strong as they usually are. The Raptors, yeah, they might be the first seed, but I'm confident my team will go one-on-one with them. Raptors, I'm not saying they will, but Raptor fans, I'm not saying they will, but they could. And then it's like, great. Now we're going to get knocked out second round probably. And the thing that would make the whole playoffs interesting is if Miami and the Wizards flipped and Wizards play the Celtics, then the Wizards, hey, we don't have to play the Cavs until the next round if we beat the Celtics. And then Miami-Cleveland, that's a series I'd want to see. D-Wade going back to – well, no, I'm saying if that switch too.
Right, but you could watch the Sixers take the Cavs spotlight. There's so much still up in the air with such little time left in the season.
And the thing that I wonder is if Kyrie will come back, like when he comes back for the playoffs, if he's going to be that same player. Because the thing with – you mentioned Steph Curry. The one thing that Steph Curry has that Kyrie doesn't have is Steph can rely on KD. He can rely on KD to be the number one guy. Kyrie is the guy in Boston. He is the number one. He is the one that leads this team. That's the whole reason he wanted to, I'm using air quotes, wanted to get traded to Boston and get out of Cleveland, out of LeBron's shadow.
Yeah, and looking at all of this and taking in with this, they were trying to avoid the surgery. Obviously, he missed I think 4 games the knee injury. So this has been a problem that started I think back in March, flared up back in the loss against Houston on March 3rd. So again, it's something that has been nagging him as well throughout his career because it's the same knee that was banged up in the 2015 finals that caused him to miss that year.
Right.
So this is something that not only will affect them this year, but also long term. We see Gordon Hayward, the bad string of injuries there. Obviously, you would rather have a break there because then you just want the bone to heal. You can build the muscle back up. With the knee, that's something that's going to continually linger. So having Gordon Hayward being banged up, having Kyrie going to have to recover as well. Both of your 2 stars, Dave, in Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, having to recover. 26, 28 years old, they're still young guys, but how worried should Boston Celtics fans be with this news coming out that Kyrie is getting more surgery and more work done on that same knee that was hurting him early in his career?
I think they shouldn't be worried at all. I think goose egg on the worries as far as both of their stars being injured. I think the more concerning thing is the fact that they tried to go the non-evasive route with Kyrie and let him, it'll heal through some rest and, just sit some games and just take it easy for a while. I think this is like becoming more of a big thing in the NBA is getting second opinions outside of team doctors because players need to be more responsible for what's best for me and not what's best for this team. And I think that's kind of what's going to be, it's been brought to light a little bit because of IT and now Kawhi. And I think it's going to be more of a topic going forward in the NBA. And I think that, a guy like Kyrie Irving is a guy who, if he's not feeling comfortable, he has that killer instinct. He wants to play. But at the same time, I think he would be smart about it. Like, if this is a knee scope, and that's the thing is we don't have a lot of details yet about this. If it's a scope, he could be out for, a week. He could be out for a couple weeks. And we'll have to see if it's just, let's go inside and take a look and, not touch anything. It could be a different timeline, but I think the answer really comes down to you shouldn't be worried because your two best players are hurt right now. You should be concerned to make sure that they recover 100% before bringing them back, because I'm on the other side from Ricky. Ricky says this year's your year. I'm like, as soon as Gordon Hayward went down in game 1, you're done for the year. Like, write this year off as a year to grow and a year to get better and use these guys as building blocks, because next year, JT exceeded all expectations. Jaylen Brown has really grown another step in this year. I think that your team and Terry Rozier has, again, continued to grow. So you have that young core building, and you've got your two vets hurt this year, but year recovery, they come back next year stronger and better.
Well, and the biggest loss that possibly is on the table for the Celtics is going to be Marcus Smart. But outside of that, you're not losing one of the the starters exactly. You're not losing Kyrie. You're not losing Gordon Hayward. You're not losing Horford. You're not losing Brown. You're not losing Tatum. Those guys are going to be on this team for the next couple of years. So you're not going to be worried about those guys. Smart coming off the bench. He's been a fantastic player for them. But you can always look to bring in a different player. We talked about Kyrie Thomas from Creighton being a guy that could possibly fill in for him in that way if they look through the draft. But looking at it and looking at it, I'm worried if I'm the Celtics, just because, at least for this season, because I don't agree that this was the year for the Celtics, because, Ricky, you're in the boat that LeBron's going to L.A., so that's going to take away the biggest hurdle for them is LeBron James, or if he even goes to Houston, which is another popular popular location, it's still out in the West.
I am taking that bias, though, from me, and I'm removing it, because what if the possibility that he stays or goes to another Eastern Conference team? The thing that I think of, and it was yet again popped into my mind when Dave was like, oh, when Gordon Hayward went down, it was a hit, but I never thought that the Celtics were out of it. I never thought
you thought they were still championship Eastern Conference contenders? I was still
riding with them, especially with everything that was going on with the Cavs. I know they made those trades, and they look better than they did before the trade deadline, but I was looking at the Celtics like, all right, this could possibly take LeBron to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yikes.
Because Kyrie will will that team just to beat LeBron on his own. And the thing that I worry about with this season is, and it depends on what LeBron does. Does he stay in Cleveland? Does he go to a 76er? But will this be the equivalent of what we saw in Major League Baseball of Nationals, really good year, they're going to the playoffs, we're going to shut Steven Strasburg down? I know, different situation because they chose to do that, but you took your best player off. This is the same thing, best player being off the court, and then the Nationals got knocked out in the divisional round. The Giants took over. The Dodgers are what they are. The Cubs are what they are. Nationals can't get back to it. So I would not want, if I'm the Celtics, to fall into that same and look back and, man, 2017, 2018 should have been our year, man. Should have been our year.
But that's just,
I don't want people to look back.
But that's bad luck. Like, that's something that, like, again, like the
National one was a decision. This one's
Gordon Hayward snapping his leg was not a decision. Kyrie Irving, banging up his knee again, it's not a decision. It's just something that, Kyrie's always had a problem with that knee, and Gordon Hayward just had a really bad break.
So Kyrie hasn't played a full season in the NBA. He's an explosive, talented player, but at the same time, I think you know what you're getting out of him, and you're going to get a partial season, and all you have to do is really hope for the best come playoff time. If you have to do like some rest schedule, if you have to break up those games until the NBA decides to split their season fairly, like maybe they just have to be more precautious about his play time because of his play style is so aggressive.
People are going to see this as disrespect, but I'm still going to ask it. Can Kyrie be the number one guy on a championship team?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he can. I think he's shown,
because with what you were saying, hasn't played a full season in a while. When he did win a championship, he was not the number one guy. LeBron was the number one guy. Can he be the number one guy on a championship team?
I think so, because he not only does he have the biggest thing for me is the mindset, and the decision to move away from Cleveland shows
the kingdom.
Shows that he has that mindset.
Yeah.
And obviously it's different styles. LeBron is the guy on a team where this is a different team, different play style. But still, late game, you're going Kyrie for a shot. Even over Gordon Hayward. Kyrie's the guy that's taking the last minute shot for the Boston Celtics. He's going to have the ball in his hands. He also obviously is one of the most best point guards in the league. He's a dynamic scorer. He's got some of the best handles in the NBA. He's gotten the ability to hit from deep in big-time games. He's a great driver. I mean, he's not the best facilitator, but again, when we're talking about players and taking over and being a number one player, I need a guy who's going to be scoring in that fourth quarter. I need a guy who's going to be able to take over a game. We weren't talking about Michael Jordan's passing abilities outside of John Kerr and Paxson back when he was winning championships for the Bulls. He was the scorer. He was the go-to guy. Yeah. You need a go-to guy. Kyrie's that guy. So that's the thing with me. I think Kyrie can be a number one on a team because he is in a guard dominant league. Or a ball handler dominant league. He's one of the best ball handlers in the league, and he's a great scorer.
Not on a team, a championship team.
No,
I think he can be the guy on a championship team.
Yeah, he is magic in the lane. He just the control he has, the ability to get to the hoop and to position his body in a really great spot to draw contact, to get to the line. Like, he does everything you want out of a player. The only problem is that health thing, and it's kind of, we see a little bit of Steph. It's a player with similar play style. Steph's obviously a better passer and a better three-point shooter, but at the same time, it's a similar play style. Steph has the ankle injuries, and Kyrie's got the knee injuries. It's just, it's a lot to put on the body.
And I mean, they're different teams too, where I mean, not only does Steph have KD
I'm thinking early Steph.
Yeah.
Like, look, their first run of the championship was Steph was the guy.
But
Clay was the B. And that's what I could see with Kyrie and Gordon Hayward.
And this Boston team is young anyway.
That's why I didn't like your Washington. I don't know enough about Washington to say I don't know if they were prepped for the future.
I was just saying the whole point with that was I don't want this to be the season for Boston where their fans go, man, that should have been the year.
But with the Wizards,
should have been the year.
The Wizards thing, they have 3 fucking players. Like 3 players. They have John Wall, Bradley Beal, and
I'm not worried about the first round for Boston. It's the second and after.
No, but I'm
getting
saying,
through Cleveland and getting through the Raptors, getting through the finals without Kyrie.
My bad. I thought you meant that when he said Washington, I was thinking NBA.
Yeah, no,
NBA
the
podcast.
baseball thing I brought up.
No, I thought you meant the Wizards. Like last year was their year because now they're down the standings.
That's a question mark team anyway.
But that was the thing. I mean, they didn't have any starts. But like looking at and comparing at least the Warriors to the Celtics. I mean, again, a young team that you have 2 guys, 1-2, and Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving, who can be like the AB on a team. Again, Steph never played a full 82 in his career. Kyrie's never done it as well. And looking back when Kyrie was dealing with that injury back in 2015, that was his worst statistical year. And that wasn't like, he was getting used to playing with LeBron James and K Love. They had him the year prior. So like they already had that experience together. It was the next year. Kyrie was lingered by that injury. He still had a decent year that year. That year he put up 44.8% from the field, 32% from 3. That's not that great, but still scored 19 points. Like obviously he's going to be a different player, but still, if you're getting 19, around probably a little upkick just because he's going to have the ball in a sense more, and the usage is going to be up. But if he's able to put up around 22 in the playoffs in the first round and just shoot 44% and around 33% from 3, they're going to be able to get past the Miami Heat in my mind. And then it's really, is he going to be near 100% or close to 100%, 95%, whatever it is, to take down the Cavs? And that's the biggest thing. It's not really the first round in my mind because even though Spoelstra is a great coach and he'll be able to really focus in and try to make Kyrie uncomfortable as possible if Kyrie is playing, because again, we don't know the timetable, but let's just assume that he is there because he is a guy that wants to be out there on the floor for his team. It's going to be something that I think Spoelstra can probably game plan around, but also you have Brad Stevens on the other side, so he's going to probably be able to game plan around that as well. So I think as long as Brad Stevens is able to coach around the Kyrie injury, I think it's going to be something that they can at least get through the first round. Then it's really the second and third round when you start hitting Cleveland, Philly, Toronto, when you move on through the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Yeah, and for me, right now, if the playoffs would start today, with a healthy, 100% healthy Kyrie Irving, I would say, all right, that second round matchup between Celtics and Cavs would be a really good one. I'm not going to say the Cavs would win it outright. It would be a fight to the end. But now with a Kyrie that's either not going to be there or not 100%, I got to go in the boat of I'm back on LeBron. I'm back on the back LeBron train. Cavs back to the finals.
But I mean, this is also Celtics team with other guys out on injury, so it's not just Kyrie. They're down 3 other guys on top of that. So this is a team that is needing in depth. And if you up against a team who really pushes them to the limits and can stop your one or your that's my concern is when it turns into playoff basketball where you're going game after game against the same team, I don't know if they're going to have enough answers in a series.
Do you think they get back
Kyrie Irving there?
Do you think they get past? Say Kyrie's there, not 100%, but Kyrie's there for the first round. Let's say it's up against Miami because that's the current matchup they got. Are you sincerely worried about that, or would you still pick the Celtics?
I would Boston in 6.
I would still go Boston, but I would be very concerned because I'm not sure matchup-wise what the Heat could do to them with their bigs. Like, the Heat's bigs are pretty impressive, and you look at the Celtics and you go, oh, yeah, Al Horford is kind of abusable down low, so I know he's not as bad as everybody makes him out to be, but, like, you can really do some work. That's all I'm thinking. I would still take the Celtics, though, in that series, but anywhere further than that, I'm concerned because those guys are playing heavy minutes on a bunch of really young guys.
Well, let's focus it this way because, I mean, Cleveland's banged up still. Toronto has unreal depth, and they're like so far, health-wise, they've been okay. Knock on wood for Toronto fans.
Yeah.
But, Cleveland's been banged up as well. Cleveland's been dealing with injuries. They've been a depleted team throughout the past couple of days, and LeBron's been carrying them. For the past couple of wins, even their coaches, not 100% right now.
Coaches,
Ty Lue isn't even on the bench right now for the Cavs. So, I mean, everyone's dealing with these injuries, but let's say Kyrie's 100%, they go up against the Cavs. Are you for sure picking Boston if Kyrie's 100%? Because in my mind, I still think I have LeBron James, I have Kevin Love coming back, and he's looking decent so far.
Good.
It really looks like that hand isn't too fucked up.
Yeah.
And you look at Larry Nance Jr. being able to bring that explosiveness. Jordan Clarkson's a great scorer. Rodney Hood, same thing. And you look at the veteran leadership of George Hill. Like, I still think that LeBron would win over 100% Boston Celtics team. And I still think I'd take him over the.
You're saying
Raptors
100% just with Kyrie. We're not talking about the Gordon Hayward thing because that happened at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
right?
no, like the team that they've been trotting out before
If Kyrie
March,
is 100% going up against the Cavs, it would be hard. I would lean a little bit like in the middle, but I would for sure say it'd be a 7-game series if he's 100%. 7-game series, and I'd probably still pick the Cavs, but I could teeter over into that Celtic green territory.
The thing is just like you have LeBron James. You have the best player in the world. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. But like LeBron James is the best player in the game right now. Most durable, most explosive. Like you have to win due to your stars. And LeBron James is the biggest star.
That
He's
would be the biggest story
everything.
if LeBron didn't make it to the finals again.
Yeah, I mean 7 straight years for LeBron James making the finals. This is the best player of my generation. I wasn't a Jordan kid. I was born in '97, so I wasn't around for the Jordan glory days. I had a Wizards Jordan jersey.
Let's see LeBron go and battle in the West, see how he fares out getting to the finals then. I mean, the weak East, man. Anyone can make the finals in the weak East.
But the thing is that, again, you have LeBron James. I'm still picking LeBron James, whether Kyrie's 100%. And now you're telling me Kyrie's not going to be 100%. Kyrie might not even be on the floor. There's no way in hell Boston has a shot if Kyrie's not 100% on that floor.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's why I'm thinking, and this is why this video is titled on YouTube, and this is why it's listed in the topics on Blog Talk Radio. This is why are the Celtics done in the East? Because I truly think if Kyrie's not there and Kyrie's not 100%,
then
they're screwed.
Yeah, they are
absolutely screwed.
If he's not 100%, kiss it goodbye. LeBron's going to the finals again. And I'm sorry to the Raptor fans who might be listening, but prove it to me, and then I'll back your team in the playoffs.
Oh, great. We're not going to have all of Toronto pissed off at us. All of Canada's going to be coming at this podcast.
Picking fights, Ricky. Picking fights. No, I can't disagree. We haven't seen anything to prove otherwise. Like, this is a team who's together for the first time this year. You got to think about how much talent was switched out on this roster. And them going into the playoffs with very little experience now. I'm concerned about the first round, and you're LeBron. Yeah, I'm like, no. Just saying the word LeBron is just no.
And look at last year. Again, like we mentioned in the Eastern Conference Finals, Isaiah Thomas wasn't there. That was a murdering. Outside of the one game that Boston won where Marcus Smart was like, hey, let's go off for 30 points or whatever he did.
Kelly Olynyk just draining threes.
Yeah, like outside of that one game, LeBron and Cleveland dominated. I know Kyrie was on the other side in that matchup, but if Kyrie is not in that game at all, either on the Cleveland side or Boston side, Isaiah Thomas is not on either side either. I'm taking LeBron James. I'm taking the star, and I don't think anyone would disagree. Maybe Boston fans would, but even then, you got to be worried going up against LeBron James without your number one player,
pretty much
Kyrie.
Riley, we looking at you, man.
I think they just go be like, but dude, think about next year. We got you. We got your number.
But even
we come
then,
back healthy, we got your number.
LeBron might
Until
not even
LeBron
be there.
goes to LA.
Well, who knows? Who knows?
But again, this is a team where this is not the year.
That's
You don't
what
need
I'm
to
saying.
win.
They are set up for success. They still have picks coming in. So many freaking picks. I hate this team because of that. But they're built for the future, and they have two guys in their prime who are their leaders. Al Horford is the veteran out there contributing at a very high level. I just think that there's no reason to rush it. If Kyrie doesn't feel comfortable, if he's not feeling good, don't rush him back and risk potential further injury to that knee. That is the least. That's the worst case scenario. Don't even bother, because, like I said, if you're not going to be able to beat LeBron, I'm not saying just shove it in 29 other teams. Fuck that. But like, I think that there's a case to be made to rest Kyrie Irving and make sure next year you come back with healthy Kyrie, healthy Hayward, and everybody else reloaded.
Ricky Widmer, final thoughts?
Are the Celtics done without Kyrie? Yes, plain and simple. Period.
Even if so you're saying not without him for sure.
He's not going to be
But,
100. I don't think he's going to be 100%. So you're done.
All right, David, final thoughts?
Yeah, enjoy the playoffs. Lots of young guys going to get their first glimpse and build up. Maybe we'll see another great Jaylen Brown playoff run.
It's like going to Disney World. Enjoy your time, enjoy your week, and then go home.
Yeah, it's an experience. Build it up, and next year we'll see what you can do.
It might be more than a week.
I wish my boy Ben Bento was still on the Boston Celtics, or like Demetrius Jackson. Get one of those guys. Get them playoff experience.
Scary Terry, baby.
Make their dreams come true.
I say Terry
those were my
Rozier,
boys.
JT are going to be awesome.
Who's the other guy they took from Iowa State? Nader. Abdul Nader.
Yeah, he is awful.
Yeah. 57 pick, second round.
Shouldn't play.
Anyways, my final thoughts are you're screwed if Kyrie's not playing. But I'm in the boat of Dave. It's not all dread. If he's not 100%, you're losing in the second round to Cleveland. If you're the 2 seed, Cleveland's a 3 seed, you're losing in the second round. I think even if you're going up against Philly, you're losing in the second round. It's gonna happen where if you're going up against a team like Toronto, Cleveland, or Philly in the second round, you're losing. It's just plain and simple. Like maybe Philly you can overcome just because Philly
turnovers,
turns over the ball so much, and Brad Stevens can play into that. But even then, talent wise, without Kyrie, Philly wins. Philly wins that matchup at least talent wise. So if Kyrie's not 100%. It looks bad for Boston, and it's just going to be wait and see until next year when Kyrie's back and Gordon Hayward's back, and you have Jaylen Brown in his third year, JT in his second year, and then hopefully some nice some nice additions through either trades or through the draft, because they're still going to try to add on, and you still know
not done.
The Anthony Davis talks are still out there, even though he probably shouldn't leave New Orleans because they're going to be going to the playoffs. But anyways, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. But anyways, let's move now into Wet Boys. We're talking about the boys that just absolutely popped off in the past week. We were talking about the soggiest of shooters, the dampest of dudes, the moistest of men. We're talking about those Wet Boys. This week, we have some big news. Ricky Widmer, you did not go with this player, but now we have a tie for number one.
We do.
So we're going to go to Dave first.
Oh, we're shaking it up.
Breaking news from that side of the table.
We got to go with the Wet Boy counter. AD has been alone at number one for the past couple weeks with 4, but Dave, you're giving it to a man who now just got his 4th Wet Boy honor.
I mean, it's pretty simple. When you're the best player in the league, why don't we respect him enough? That's the problem. It just feels like wrong. It's like, why continue to praise LeBron James for being LeBron James? He's just doing LeBron James things, dropping 36, 11, and 13.
So what you're saying, it should be, who's your wet boy, Sean? LeBron James. Who's your wet boy, Ricky? LeBron James. Who's your wet boy, Dave? LeBron James.
Well, we were fighting over it.
I mean,
after the game where he put up, 37, 17, and no turnovers?
I wasn't fighting, but if either of you two were not going to do it, I was going to do it. Let's be honest.
He was going to get it one way or the other. Just amazing. He's just purely carrying this Cavaliers team. The resurgence of Kevin Love healthy again has helped, no doubt. But at the same time, just like Sean said, 17 assists, 0 turnovers, phenomenal play. He has looked incredible. And guess what? 3 straight wins.
Well, and I think the only 2 guys to do that numbers are literal point guards. John Stockton and Chris Paul. Like, some of the 2 best point guards of all time. LeBron James is, I'm a 6'8" point guard, and I'm just going to do exactly what the greatest point guard of all time, John Stockton, did.
Point forward, Sean. He's a point forward.
But I'm just saying, like even point guards aren't doing that.
All 5 positions.
Yeah, like other players
Put him at center.
who are playing point guard.
I know.
But LeBron James is absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
We know that because the guy's 33 years old in his 15th season, just absolutely.
I'm just showing him some love,
dominating the league. And if it wasn't for James Harden and it wasn't for the small start, he would be Coach of the Year and MVP.
Absolutely.
But Ricky, who's your wet boy?
My wet boy is actually a first-time honor.
Oh,
is it first wet boy?
Is it an actual NBA player this week?
It is an actual NBA player.
Change it up.
Actually, it would be the third week in a row that I've given it to someone who has first wet boy honors with Lonzo, Julius Lyle, and now Julius Randle.
Orange Julius.
I mean, this is a guy I could have gave it to last week, but I wanted to give it to Lyles and UMBC for their upset. But I mean, double this week. 52% from the field, 68% from the free throw line for a big. That's pretty good in my mind. Got to give it to Julius Randle. I know he had his 30-point game either last week or 2 weeks ago, but I got to give some love to Randle for balling out.
I literally think on the PTP you have said that like Trae Young's 86% from the line wasn't that good. So now that you're saying like 68% from the line, pretty good.
Pretty good.
For a big. I mean, Shaq. I mean, career-wise,
Purely
Shaq
because
shoot?
you're 3 inches taller means shooting free throws is harder. I understand completely.
That's
Richie.
how it works, though. That's how it works.
It should be much easier. It's just extending the longer arms into the bucket.
You're a Lakers fanboy now. What happened?
I'm not a Lakers fan.
He's a Lakers
Really?
fanboy.
Because Lonzo into Julius Randle?
Now he's and LeBron too.
Yeah, I mean the LeBron hype.
What was Shaq's foul line? Shaq shot
It's got to be under 55%.
52.7 for his career.
Yeah, he was literally one of the worst free throw shooters. Yeah. I mean, if he could hit his free throws, he would have been the all-time scoring leader.
Julius career leader, I think. His career stats are like 71%.
His highest from the line was in the 02-03 season where he shot 62.2 from the line.
Yeah, pretty good for Shaq.
Yeah.
Anyways, final wet boy is going to be I think this is his second appearance. It's going to be Kemba Walker. Since it's the time of March, Kemba Walker needs to ball out. 26 points per game in the past 4 games, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 43% from the field, 42% from 3.
And how many points did they beat the Grizzlies by?
Thank you. 61 points they beat the Grizzlies by last night. He scored 46 points in 28 minutes. So absolutely taking down
Kemba didn't have to play.
Yeah, taking down the G League team. But if he played 40 minutes like he usually does, he would have put up like 80. He would have put up like 94 points, something like that. I shouldn't do math in the podcast.
Here's the better question when it comes to that. Whose domination win is more impressive? The Hornets over the Grizzlies or UConn in their first round game?
UConn, because the Grizzlies one is pathetic.
But it was a 1 over a 16 is kind of like the same as the Grizzlies would be a 16 seed in the tournament.
But the Grizzlies wouldn't even make a play-in game.
See, that's the
thing.
Maybe
in the NIT.
That's the thing.
Maybe
64 teams make that tournament.
Yeah.
30 teams are in the NBA. So there is a difference. So the Grizzlies would be like what, an 8 seed? Like they'd be like an 8 or 7 seed. Mm-hmm. So like that's pathetic what the Grizzlies did. Like they are trotting out literal garbage. Like I could play for the Memphis Grizzlies right now.
They did what a 16 seed did.
I don't know how they're not getting in trouble for not playing. And even the thing is, too, like if they started that game up 60-0 on a 60-0 run, they still would have lost.
It's because they're not a major market like Chicago is. Well, we get in trouble because we're a major market.
Well, I just think they're terrible.
You're just saying nobody watches, so nobody cares?
Yeah, no one watches, no one cares.
Even if Marcus all played.
Except for Grizzly fans, not many of them. After Fizdale left, all the Grizzly fans were like, well, I'm taking my shirt and taking that for data.
I don't think that's true.
Shout out to Kemba Walker because I love him. But anyways, and also, I just signed Danny Hurley to be the new UConn men's basketball coach. So there we go. Shout out to UConn. Shout out to Kemba Walker. Let's move into the next topic. We are going to be talking about the Phoenix Suns. Came out today, or I think it was yesterday, that the Suns are now going to begin a search for the head coach. Interim coach Jay Triano is a candidate for that job, and we're going to frame this around their star, Devin Booker. This is a kid that is still very young, looks like an absolute monster of a scorer. They still have a ton of young potential as well. You got Josh Jackson, who they recently drafted, TJ Warren, who they just recently extended, Dragon Bender, Marquise Chris, who were 2 recent draft picks for them, and also, of course, young gun Tyson Chandler. Looking at this, though, they're going to need a culture in Phoenix. Yep. I felt like they haven't had a culture. Earl Watson was very young. I don't think he was ready for that job. They really haven't had a culture since D'Antoni, where he had an offense, they had a system, they had really something that was their calling card. They had Steve Nash, and he was just dominating and running around. I feel like they need to build the same kind of culture around Devin Booker. But now it's really, how are you going to get the players around that, and how are you going to get the coaches around that? So let's start first with the question of what is more important for the Phoenix Suns. Is it the coach or is it the players around Devin Booker?
It's the coach, because to me that setting a culture starts with the coach, because the players do their own thing, they're a family, but the coach is there to guide them. And to me, there is one guy that needs to get this job, and there's one guy that the Suns need to target, and that's David Fizdale. He's the guy that I think can come in, set that culture, work with this young team to make Devin Booker successful in that culture, and then you find the players to match what Fizdale wants to do and the culture that he would set in Phoenix.
David, coach or players?
It's players. I think that this team has gone through a laundry list of underperforming players, and honestly, it's time for them to actually hit on the draft. I know they've gotten screwed by the ping pong balls multiple times. This is a team that definitely needs to hit here in this year's draft because you have Dev Booker, who is looking like a young Kobe out there sometimes. It's just, you need to get players around him to support him, to build him up. I think a coach in this scenario, I feel like, yes, you could have a young coach, or you could have a coach come in and help guide them, but I don't feel like it's necessary to nail down right now. I think with this young team, you just need someone to keep them all together in a cohesive unit. So I'm valuing the coach less than nailing your pick in the draft and your free agency moves.
I hear that, though, and I just, thinking of what the Suns are, since they had D'Antoni from 03 to 08, you had Terry Porter, who was there for 2 years. You had Gentry, who, since D'Antoni, was the longest guy there. He was 09 to 2013. Lindsey Hunter was just the interim in 2013. Then you had Hornacek for 3 years, Earl Watson for 2 years, and it goes to me where you got to get, like, when is Phoenix going to get that coach to where it's like, this is our guy? I feel like they get a guy, and it's like, after 2-3 years, all right, see you later. We shouldn't have hired you in the first place.
I think one thing, though, is we look at the NBA right now, and we always talk about a star-driven league. And I don't know if Devin Booker is going to be a superstar. I think he could be a number. Well, he's still young.
Yeah, I know.
He's still very
But
young.
he's not like, I'm not, when I say like superstar, like Kyrie, LeBron, he could be the number one on this team and be the one that helps them get to a championship, but he's a star, not a superstar.
He's not a superstar yet. But at some point, I don't know if he can be that star. He's not a star yet. He's still going to have to hit that stride.
Right.
But he still has the ability to do that. The outside shot is there. The scoring ability is there for Devin Booker. And if he's able to get a point guard that can really help him and facilitate him, I think that he could possibly be a star. But also, this is a team that's going to be drafting number 1 or number 2, or they're going to have a top 3 pick. Because right now,
to think so.
Yeah, right now,
Depending how those balls bounce.
19-54 record. They've lost 10 straight games. They currently have the best odds to win the number 1 overall pick. It's going to be a question of, is the player they pick number 1 overall going to be their star, or is it going to be Devin Booker? And I think that the players are going to be. I think the players are going to be more important, but what's going to be more important is the GM. And looking at Ryan McDonough, he comes from a very impressive line. 37 years old, was under Danny Ainge. He's a young kid. I think that he had a great year back in 2013, 2014, where he was almost named Executive of the Year. Obviously, it's been taking a little bit more of a turn since he's been named the Executive of the Year. But still, looking at it, there's been some trouble with finding the right coach, and I think you make a great point. You got to build that culture around. But I think if you find the right players, you can find the coach that's going to be able to at least work it. And it's just really, can the coach just rein the players in? Because the players are going to do most of the work on the floor out there. They're going to, if you have a good enough point guard, he can be the floor general out there that really runs this offense. I mean, you don't really need that impressive of schemes today in the NBA. Like defensively,
you need to be able to run pick and roll in the NBA today to run an offense. That's about it. That's the base minimum requirement. And what you're saying, kind of, I think back, and I'm going to extreme cases here, so feel free to yell at me about it. But like, look at what Mark Jackson did for the Golden State Warriors. He was there to guide them. He wasn't there to be the head coach for them for the next decade. He was a good, competent head coach. Nothing against him. He got a team to above mediocre, and that's awesome. He got young players. He developed some of them, and then turns around and you hand over the keys to someone who is a game changer. No one knew, what to expect out of the gates, and we see the emergence of what Draymond Green could do really that year. You see this team turn it to a different level. And that's why I think you don't necessarily need to hit out of the ballpark and try to find your guy who's going to be Pop, who's going to be a guy like Spoelstra. The odds on landing one of those coaches is so slim that I think you can, live with, a Jay Triano. You can live with a guy like Vogel. You can live with guys, even like a Stackhouse. Like if you go out and get Stackhouse, it's a guy who doesn't take shit. He's not a guy who lets the locker room get out of sorts. I think you can go with one of those guys if you can convince them to come, because there's going to be a lot of openings for head coaches here, I feel. Yeah. So I just feel like
you could go out. Last year or 2 years ago? We're like,
there was none. There was none coming into this season. And then it took, 8 games or whatever. The Suns fired.
They shouldn't hire Frank Vogel.
I'm not saying they should. I'm saying
horrible.
You go out and you can get somebody. You don't. I think looking for the holy grail of head coaches is a waste of time. I don't think you're going to be able to land it because it's not a sexy job yet.
Yeah.
Get a guy who can keep people grounded and who can keep the locker room in sorts.
And you know who that is?
Who's that?
Fizdale. Like Fizdale's not the guy that's gonna and I'm not saying this is a bad thing to Fizdale. It's okay if he's not the guy to be your Steve Kerr, but he could be your Mark Jackson in Phoenix.
But does he ruffle feathers too much? Like that's the thing. It's like we look at the Grizzlies. There's a reason he got fired. I mean, well,
he got fired because the Grizzlies mismanaged that poorly.
Well, that's the question. We don't know all the details, and him picking a fight with his best player. Publicly is a problem,
and that's the thing. The thing that's different about the Grizzlies to the Suns is he picked a fight with a veteran player, and veterans are usually like, "Excuse me, who are you talking to? I've put in my dues. You don't talk to me like that." Whereas younger players have more of this like. I kind of feel like younger players you can kind of be more like that with. Especially look at like college kids. I know they're not pros, but look at college kids, how you can treat them differently because it's like, you know what? I haven't earned the respect I haven't been here long enough to earn the respect. So it's like I can't sit there and go, whoa, who are you talking to? Because I've been here for so long and look at what I've done, kind of a thing. That's the whole situation with that. I feel like Fizdale's the guy for the Suns because he can be that Mark Jackson, work with this young team, and if he is the guy to then transition into them being a playoff team, if he's not and he ends up being Mark Jackson where they fire him and then get their their Steve Kerr kind of a coach, then go with that. But I feel like the Suns' biggest problem is they get a coach, draft. Okay, now a new guy, and then the new guy comes in.
How many other teams do the same dance? Like there's literally 6 amazing head coaches in the NBA, and outside of that, I think everybody's fairly replaceable.
Yeah,
I mean, no disrespect to them, but there are the top tier, the cream of the crop coaches, and then there's guys who get by.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many times have the Bulls switched their head coach since 2007? 4 times. Vinny, Scott. And then Tom, and then Fred.
Yeah.
Right?
And who knows about Fred in the next 2 years.
Exactly. Well, I mean, he's been all right. But,
I know. That's what I'm saying. But that's the thing. Are you in love with him? Do you think he's the next Pop?
And that's the thing. Thibodeau was a top 10 coach. They got rid of him.
Exactly.
The thing that
Since 07?
Yeah.
So it was...
The past 10 years.
07 was
I just need a
Jim
number.
Boylan. Jim Boylan was 2 years. Vinny Del Negro was 2 years. Thibodeau was 5 years, and then Hoiberg's been 4 years.
How was Scott Skiles the coach then?
Scott Skiles
3 to
was
7.
07, 03 to 07.
Okay.
Boylan was only there for 1.
Yeah.
Was he just the intro?
Yeah. No, the interim
was Pete Myers.
Yeah.
I don't remember Jim Boylan.
Pete Myers was an interim twice for the Bulls in 03 and in 07.
Anyways.
Cool. That's my point.
But the thing though with that is you look at all these young players though, and even though they're young, they've had 3 head coaches. Some of them, T.J. Warren has, Devin Booker has. They've dealt with Hornacek, Earl Watson, and now Jay Triano. So I mean, this is something that I understand.
And I think that's bad on the Suns' management.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You can't bring a guy in Fizdale in because if he treats these players wrong, it's just you're just another guy that's going to be leaving. You need a guy that I think you need to really be able to cement into a spot. And a guy that might be a little controversial for that spot, and we'll get to players in a bit because they still have the draft picks, and if we're siding on the player side, it's obviously going to be important who they're going to be put around them. But a guy that I want to throw out there that might be a little bit difficult just because of his age and just because of his time away from the NBA, Rick Pitino. This is a guy that, again, has dealing with young kids. This is a guy that has been around the game. He's a guy that's been around, Donovan Mitchell. He's been around so many NBA, stars and NBA players. This guy knows basketball.
I wouldn't. With what's going on, I don't know if I would touch him for what's going on in I don't want to say politics, but what's the word I'm looking for? Basically
the culture,
not the culture, but everything that
Society?
went on with him leaving, getting fired from Louisville. The drama. I don't know if I'd want to touch that, although it is the NBA.
Again, the whole thing though is he's saying that it never was, his he never knew about it. And again, it's controversial. I understand, but again, if we're talking a guy that knows basketball. Rick Pitino is probably the best coach on the market for that, even though he hasn't been in the NBA since Boston.
I'll throw you out this one. This is a long shot, and you only popped it in my head because you said Pitino. Yet again, I was watching PTI earlier today, and they were talking about if Wildcat fans calling for Calipari's head. I don't see him getting fired. I'm not
way.
saying that. But let's say he does. If you're the Suns, do you heavily try to get Calipari to come in and be the coach of the Suns to work with that young crowd? Do you maybe try to do the Brad Stevens route and take a guy who is in college and try to make him come over to the NBA because you have a younger roster?
There's no way in hell Calipari gets fired.
No, I know. I'm just
No,
I
but
just
you could
threw it
go
out
for
there.
like maybe Jay Wright.
Yeah.
I mean,
But if he wins the
I
national
don't think
title
Jay
this
wants
year,
to leave.
That's the thing.
Like-
is no, but if you can convince them to leave, you
Yeah.
give them the money, you give them a guaranteed contract.
But is it worth
Tony
it?
Bennett.
Again, that's the thing.
Tony Bennett from Virginia.
Okay, but hold on. The thing though is with these guys, like you can make it financially available for them. But like
Yeah.
again, they have significant jobs right now. Tony Bennett, even though he was the first coach to lose to a 16 seed, he's still going to be a guy at Virginia. Virginia hasn't been a college basketball powerhouse since Ralph Sampson
Yeah,
back
but
in
I
the
mean,
80s.
we
But,
even
like,
talked about him with the Bucks.
Yeah.
we did, but
That was
look
more
at-
of his Buck tie,
But
though.
but the thing with the Bucks is they were a playoff team. They had Giannis. They are a team that's already going to be good.
And they're
so all you need to
still
do is
looking,
make
so
them
now you have
better.
to compete against the Bucks and potentially against the Grizzlies for a head coaching spot.
You need to make them better.
mean,
That's the thing with those college coaches is
Yeah.
you are going with Rick Pitino, a guy that needs work, a guy that has been out of the game, that might not be let back into college basketball. That's the reason why I bring up Pitino. I don't think they're going to go with a college guy. I think they're either going to go with a guy that's already been in the NBA or a guy that's desperate like Pitino. Because Pitino, if he does have to leave, you're already used to getting rid of head coaches. So that's the thing with that is I just think of Pitino as the only outside guy of the NBA just because he's a guy that really has nothing to lose and is trying to fight for his at least namesake. He's trying to fight for his at least what's it called? Character. So that's why I throw out Pitino. I don't think Jay Wright's going to go. I don't think Tony Bennett's going to go. Calipari is not going to get fired. Sean Miller probably won't go, even though he's got the connection to Arizona, especially if they draft Ayton as well. Like I look at it, I think Fizdale is definitely going to be a guy. I think he might be too abrasive though. I think that Patino's going to be a wild card. I don't think it's a for sure thing.
Yeah.
Wild card. You want to throw a college coach, maybe Shaka Smart, just because
We all
he
like
is young.
Shaka, yeah.
I don't really.
I don't think he's going to
I don't think
the
he's.
pros.
Yeah, I think he's got a home for at least another 2 years.
He's got a safe job.
Yeah.
And then you look around the NBA. I mean, consistently you're picking from the Spurs tree, and I know Spurs are heavily protecting their boy.
Yeah.
And you look at the Heat. I mean, obviously the Spoelstra tree is a nice tree to pick from. But like even with the Pacers right now, I don't think Nate McMillan is their guy for the rest of the year. But he's done a great job with the Pacers. And if you find a guy that has head coaching experience, a guy that's been in an NBA locker room, just to at least fill the position and get the guys to the right spot, I think that would be probably the smartest move. And I think Fizdale might be too big of a splash because Fizdale is already making a name for himself. I mean, Fizdale is a recognizable coach on ESPN. He's got the take that for data line. So, like, I think if you're going with a coach, you have to go with something that's either bland and boring, like just getting a new assistant head coach, or you have to get a guy that's going to pretty much be fighting for his life in Rick Pitino. His basketball career. So that's why I throw out those names. And just because we mentioned the players, let's talk a little bit about that. I think Ryan McDonough is more important to this Phoenix Suns team and their direction. They have 3 picks in this NBA draft. If they are the number 1 pick, they have their spot. Is it DeAndre Ayton?
I think it
build
needs
around
to be.
Devin Booker.
I think it needs to be. And here's the thing, like I think that you could easily pair Luka with Dev Book, and I think that would work. I just think that for the Suns team, locking down, having your future big and possibly most dominant center, we've seen in the last couple of years, obviously since Embiid, like it could be something special. You could have a guy in the same line of like Cat Embiid. He could be the next big center we see, and giving someone inside who can dominate the boards and who can stretch the floor out as well to pair with Booker would be amazing. I know he does a lot of the heavy lifting as far as primary ball handling because they just picked up Alfred Payton for the rest of this year. We'll see, but I think that he is comfortable with that role, and I think that by giving you a low post option and a guy who can go with a 5 and play, I think that would be a safe bet for them. I think he feels like they can't miss. Like I know we talk about Luka because he does everything well, nothing amazing being can't miss, but like the body of work for it's just incredible.
Well, and with DeAndre Ayton, he also has the connection. I mean, he's got the Arizona
Localish,
connection as
yeah.
well. And it's something though with him, and we brought this up when we were talking about him before. He's from the Phoenix area, went to high school there. Obviously went to college there. But one thing with that is he wants to be a forward. He wants to be a 4. So right now, you're going to have to change your team up. You're not sold on Chris. You're not sold on Bender because those guys haven't been great, and you would rather go with a guy that's going to be a first sure in Ayton. But again, I'm a little bit worried about maybe possibly the character issues, not character issues, but at least the ego that might be there with DeAndre Ayton, the need to be a 4 in the NBA, if he could even play the 4 position.
Well, he's playing it right now in college, but that's more of the system. So we'll see what happens in the NBA. I mean, you can't ride Tyson Chandler to death. No. I mean, you need to pair Dev Book with somebody. I think honestly, like my ideal pick would be a point guard, but we don't have any point guards rated that high in this year's draft.
Or do we? I'm saying if they are
number 1 overall.
No. If they're one,
he said 1.
If they're 1 or 2. It's DeAndre Ayton, but I'm going more of the, let's say they don't get Luka. Well, they don't get DeAndre
They get their
Ayton.
traditional lottery ball roll down.
If I'm at 3 and I'm the Suns, I think about Trae Young. I think about it because you said you need that point guard. Dev Book can be your main scorer. You can use Trae Young to be the assist guy, and he's got a shot in his own.
Yeah.
If I'm 3, 4, 5 and Trae's there, if I'm the Suns, I think about pulling the trigger on him.
How about this? This is what I think should happen if I'm the Phoenix Suns. You got Devin Booker, who's going to be a dynamic scorer, right? You have the ability, if they get the number 1 overall pick, to take DeAndre Ayton, who can be a down low force. You already have the wings, TJ Warren, Josh Jackson.
Yeah.
You need a point guard. You have the 15th and 16th pick. A guy that I am higher on in being an NBA point guard is Colin Sexton, so trade up and get Colin Sexton.
No, I was saying going with what we said in the mock draft is take those 2 picks, trade for Kemba Walker.
Take the 2 picks, trade up and get Colin Sexton. He's going to be a point guard. And you go get him, and he doesn't need to be a scorer. He's got the passing ability. But one thing, too, is he does his dirty work inside. He's going to be dribbling and penetrating, and I think that's going to work well with Devin Booker. And that's going to be something that I think you could probably exploit. He's going to be more of a natural ball handler. I know Trae Young is a better facilitator, but then again, Colin Sexton has the body and the size, and that's something that I like personally, and I think that might help him be a better facilitator in the NBA because Trae Young's doing this in college against worse competition.
And another situation that plays into it is right now on Tankathon, they've got Colin Sexton actually falling to 15, so they wouldn't have to trade up. But what if?
But let's go on with our thoughts.
But what
because
if
Tankathon is just a?
But what I'm saying is into that is if Colin Sexton is gone at 15. What if you get like a Shai Gilgeous? I would keep my 2 picks and get either Gilgeous or Colin at 15, then trade up and be like, I'm going to get this guy.
Do you think Colin Sexton's going to be at 15?
No, I don't.
So let's not even talk about that.
But I feel like Shai could, and I would like Shai if I'm at 15.
That's fair, and I wouldn't disagree with that.
Then that way I get 16-2, and I get 2 guys instead of trading up for Colin Sexton, and then putting all my eggs, well, not all of them, but most of my eggs in the Colin Sexton basket because I'm trading 2 top 20 picks to try to get 1 player.
But with that is we look at the teams in front of them. We talked about Charlotte being a landing spot for Colin Sexton because of the whole Kemba Walker thing. But then again, looking at all the teams in front of them, possibly New York will be looking for a point guard. If Trae Young's off the board, then they can totally go Colin Sexton. Los Angeles Clippers have 2 picks. They can go with Colin Sexton. So, and even if Colin Sexton's off the board with them, the Clippers can go Shai Gilgeous. So you might need to move up to still get even Shai. So that's one thing with me is if you need a point guard. At some point in your 3 picks, you need a point guard. I would say go 8 with 1 and then use that 15-16 and trade up and get a guy that you for sure know in either Shai Gilgeous, if you like Shai Gilgeous better than Colin Sexton, and get a point guard that you for sure know is going to if you have a guy that you love at a position you need, go and get him is what I'm saying. So don't worry about getting those 2 players because, hey, you might take a guy in Mitchell Robinson and he just might not pan out. Like that's the thing. It's like you need to go with the for sure players that you love. And if Colin Sexton and Shai Gilgeous are there, but you're afraid of them being taken, take those picks, move up and get them.
Unless you can also sit and go, well, okay, in free agency, what if we try to, because they do have Alfred Payton, what if we try to bring him back? What if we go after an Isaiah Thomas? What if we go after a Rajon Rondo and say, you know what, we don't need, like, if we don't get Shai, we don't have to get Colin, it's not the end of the world because we can get a point guard in free agency, even if it's a Rondo and it's like, hey, you know what, he might be there for like a year.
Rondo ain't signing with no Suns.
No, I know, but I'm just throwing
Rondo's
names out there.
Like, I think that you could go free agency, and there are a couple names to be interesting, but I think I'm with Sean at least. If you're at 1, you definitely go for the big. You go with Aiden. But like Colin Sexton would be an awesome pairing for them and Dev Book because you have a guy who is a two-way guard. You have a guy who can guard the other team's better guard. Give Dev Booker the chance to not be exposed as much on defense. Like we all know he is a heavy offensive usage. Defensively, if you can hide him with a better point guard defensively, do it. Take that chance and absolutely run with it. I don't know if I would necessarily trade up though, because having 2 more picks, like this is a team with very bad chance at the lot.
Especially back to back, so you're getting guys that are almost the exact same
value, hopefully. But that's the thing is they've missed on a lot of their picks recently. So that comes to the question of how's their scouting potential? Maybe not great. So maybe you do need the volume of picks.
But that's the thing, really quick, that goes into it. When you don't have a head coach that's there for...
It's the GM is doing
I know,
the
but
scouting.
like when you don't have a head coach that's there to do it, it's like the GM can do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to consult with a guy who's actually coaching the team.
I mean, Ryan McDonough, you don't like the Marquise Chris pick. That's what you're saying. The Chris pick and Bender
pick. The Chris pick, Bender pick, Alex Len, like... You can go through a lot of these picks and question, like, I mean, yes, they did hit on Dev Book. They did hit on TJ Warren. They did hit, like, they've gotten...
Josh Jackson?
Yeah, that was the third one. They've gotten a couple of great guys, but at the same time, they've also missed equally. Like, it's the lotto. It's a roll of the dice. I get it, but... And Ricky, to your point, like GMs always consult with head coaches. Come on, think about Chicago. I know we reference Chicago too much, but like think about Hoiberg and like what his picks had been walking in. Think about Thibodeau being forced into picks that he didn't want. He didn't want these kids on his team. That wasn't his plan. He don't want to play them.
I think you're using a bad example because how much do we complain about Garpax
all the damn time? But think about the Suns GM.
I know.
Are people positive about that?
I'm not saying that McDonough is a great GM though.
But again, he's still young, and like let's look at the picks that he's made.
Yep.
2013 was his first technically draft, but even then he was hired in March of 2013, then had to come back, turn around in June, and start picking. He takes Alex Len with the 5th pick in 2013 in that draft. Looking at that whole thing, that draft wasn't great. Who was he going to go with? Nerlens? Nerlens hasn't really panned out. Like, Steven Adams is the best next big man in that slot. And even after that, C.J. McCollum's the next best pick.
He would have been BPA.
What? Who?
Either CJ or Giannis would have been BPA, but no one was going to take Giannis.
No one was picking Giannis. Like Alex Len was slotted to go there, so that wasn't like a crazy reach. Then he goes out and gets Bogdan. Bogdan's been great. He just didn't want to play for Phoenix. So like, and like he took Tyler Ennis too. He took Alex Brown, but like that was a very weak draft. He still found Bogdan. Then the next one, he goes out and gets Devin Booker. That's a great pick right there.
Yeah.
Then 2016, he goes and gets Dragon Bender, which was again iffy, and then he goes and trades up to get Marquise Chris. And he could have had the chance at Scale, but even then, like he just tried to get a guy who he thought, potential-wise, and Chris would have surpassed Scale and Georgios, Papagiannis. Papagiannis isn't even on the fucking team that drafted him. So like there, it's not a huge miss. You took a gamble, it didn't pay off, but it's also not burning you too badly because Scale might not be that great.
No, there are other guys drafted in between who could have gone. That's all I'm saying.
But even then, finally, Josh Jackson, 4th overall, nice pick.
Yeah, but you look. That's the thing. You look further in that draft and you go, why didn't they go point guard? There's a couple good point guards after that.
Yeah,
I mean, they had Fox literally went the next pick. Dennis Smith Jr. literally a couple picks after that. Like, it makes you wonder about that. Now, I know.
But then they had Dragic. They had Bledsoe. They had Brandon Knight. Like they
still had Brandon Knight actually.
Yeah, they had like.
He's still
in his prime.
Someone brought it up in the comment section. I was like, I forgot about that.
That's point guard hell.
That Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, like it's point guard hell out there. So like again, he hasn't been great.
They went from 5 to none.
Still young, and I think that McDonough can make the smart moves. I'm just saying. I'm not saying trade up, but I'm saying if you have a guy that you need, you have a point guard that you like in Colin Sexton, quit waiting, take him.
Here's one thing I want to throw out, and this was from Lexville123 on our 11 through 20.
Yeah, Alex
he said 2 picks, Brandon Knight for D'Angelo Russell.
I don't know that Brooklyn lets him go.
No, wait. So it's
2 picks and Brandon Knight for D'Lo.
So
I don't think that's gonna work. That'd be 15-16 because they're not going to get that one unless they go future
unless
first.
Unless they go like one this year, one next
future
year.
first. So,
yeah,
I don't. But D'Lo, the thing is, I want a facilitator. Like I don't want D'Lo.
Yeah,
D'Lo's a combo guard who's going to be scoring. Like I need a facilitator. D'Lo doesn't fit that need. He's a just smaller fucking Devin Booker, kind of. So, like, I don't know. I don't like that. I like the move that you brought up with Kemba Walker. It's just, would they do that? And then would they be able to have that, take on the salary cap that Charlotte desires teams to take on?
Oh, they got this contract. Take this contract for us.
But, like, do you want to take on Nick Batum for 9 years?
I mean, I'm the Suns.
$2 billion.
I'm the Suns. If I'm getting Kemba, sure, bring him on.
But then you have to re-sign Kemba again.
Do you think you can convince Kemba?
I'll make it work. I'll make it work to try to flip the contract I don't want to.
You have to re-sign Kemba, then you have to re-up Devin Booker at some point, then you have to re-up Josh Jackson.
If you want to be a great GM, you got to figure out how to make it work if you're going to do that.
Yeah. We're not GMs, which YouTube comments tell us all the time, but I think we could probably turn around the Suns.
But hey, they're a spot ahead of the Hawks at least. They have that guy. They have that special guy, and they've got a couple other great pieces around him.
Just too bad they're in the wrong conference.
No, it's not even the wrong conference. It's just the one position you need to have in the NBA is a point guard. Literally, there are so many good point guards in the NBA.
It's like the quarterback in an NFL
and they
team.
literally have none of them.
Yeah. It's and that's the thing too, and you mentioned it, like they're in a better spot than all these other teams. Grizzlies doesn't have that future star. They have old aging stars. Atlanta doesn't have a guy that they're tied to. Orlando, okay.
You just say Orlando has 12 starters.
Like looking at all these teams, Brooklyn doesn't even have their pick. Like all these teams are screwed. Phoenix is in the best place to build. It's just you got to hit on these picks, and that's why I'm saying if you need a point guard, trade up, use that 15-16, use the second rounder, and go and get a Colin Sexton, go and get a Shai Gilgeous. If you love them, go and get them. Yeah. That's my mentality. It's like the same thing with the NFL draft. You have a quarterback you love, go up and get them. Don't hesitate because you need that position.
Could you see them if they get stuck at 3-4 going Trae Young?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too.
All right.
As if Luka's not on the board, I could see them going Trae Young and possibly even Colin Sexton
they like. Why not? Because Trae Young could be that facilitator that you want.
Yeah. Phenomenal passer.
So I don't know. It's something that Phoenix just needs to push ahead. And I think if they get the players, the point guard, it doesn't matter who the coach is. But the one thing that I think you need to do is just make sure that coach is going to be there for more than 3 years, more than 4 years. Just make sure you have a guy that's going to be at least a familiar face that these young kids can look and grow with. It doesn't have to be the future guy, but at least a guy that they can at least be and consistently rely on to be there. But let's move in now to the final topic, and we're going to welcome in our patron, Jake, onto the Fast Break podcast, and we're going to be talking about the Atlanta Hawks and their first-round draft selections. They have 3 picks currently in the first round of the NBA draft. They are slotted at 4th with their own pick. They also have Minnesota's pick, which is currently slotted at 19. And they also have the Houston Rockets pick at 30. Jake, welcome back.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm dealing with these two bozos, as you know, as we've been having a pretty good conversation about if the Bulls could take on the 76ers in the playoffs this year. Ricky calling for a sweep. But anyways, we're talking about the Hawks this year. Looking at this great take race between Phoenix, Memphis, Orlando, Atlanta. You can even throw Dallas in there, Brooklyn as well. Who do you think is going to come out on top of this? Do you think Atlanta has a shot at getting the number 1 overall pick?
Anybody has a shot at getting the number 1 overall pick. I mean, the Kings can end up with the number 1 overall pick, but I think in the end the Suns will probably have the worst record. Memphis followed by them. I think it'll basically stay how it is. I think Atlanta will fall in that 3 or 4 range.
All right, so boys, if they're staying in that 3 or 4 range, we got to talk about the draft prospects that are going to be fitting for them. Looking at our mock draft last week with that 3.0, most of us had Luka Doncic going in the top 2. We also had DeAndre Ayton in the top 2 as well, so that's putting most likely those 2 prospects out of those ranges. And we've also heard from the Atlanta Hawks camp, or at least some rumors out of the Atlanta Hawks camp, that they're not really sold on any of the guys they currently have in there that they're going to be sticking around. So looking at this, Jake, what do you think should be the strategy of the Atlanta Hawks in this draft at the 3 or 4 slot, which you said that they're going to be in?
Well, I love building around defense, and I think who, in my opinion, is the second best player in the draft behind Ayton is Bamba out of Texas. I love what he brings as a two-way player. He's a great rim protector. He has the post game. Oh, he needs to work on it, obviously, but he has at least some of the post game. And his jump shot isn't terrible as well. And I think coming into the NBA, he'll transition pretty well. And I think building around defense, again, is a great way to build your team. And the Hawks have no building pieces right now, so I think he would be a pretty good place to start.
Ricky, looking at the Hawks right now, we love Mo Bamba here on the podcast.
I do, and I was thinking as Jake was talking, I would love, like, if the Hawks were at, like, 7, it'd be, like, great. That's a sweet spot. You can go, like, Mo Bamba at 3, 2, 3, 4. that might be a reach for me, because for me it comes down to, yes, in our mock draft I was the one that had Luka a little bit sliding, but most odds were assuming he's going to go 1 or 2. Ayton's going to go 1 or 2. So if they're at 3 and 4, I think it comes down to, you could take Bamba, but it's really what position are you going to go with? Because like you said, if they're up where nobody is safe, what do you do at 3? Then you go with a Trae Young and say, you know what, we're going to revamp this team, go with a point guard, because Dennis Schroeder's not our future? Are we going to go with a Bagley? Are we going to go with a Bamba? I think the safer pick right now would be Marvin Bagley. Let him be your 4 in the NBA, or if you really like Bamba, go with that. Go with a big, because I know you're not sold on everyone, but Dennis Schroeder is no joke, and you don't need to go and reach for a point guard and then try to find someone to get Schroeder from you.
Dave, looking at the defensive thing that Jake brought up, I know that you are more sold on Jaren Jackson as a defender in the next level in the NBA. Do you think that they should go Jaren Jackson if they're going to go defensively? Why would you say Jackson over Bamba in the case of the Atlanta Hawks?
I think purely because Jackson has the ability to truly stretch the floor. I know Bamba has worked on it, and his shot is coming along, and I don't think it's something that he's going to have it's something he can definitely develop at the next level. But right now, Jaren Jackson Jr. has everything he needs to transition to the NBA and be that stretch 4, stretch 5. He has a great rim presence, great ability to block the ball, like just active hands around the rim. And he doesn't have the size that Bamba does, but if you look at the stats, if you look at his play style, he definitely has a knack for knowing when to go after it. The problem against Jackson that I could see where Bamba comes in better is the physicals. Like, Bamba has wingspan, and Bamba doesn't get in foul trouble the way Jaren Jackson Jr. does. Like, you always look at if you look purely just stat-wise, there's a reason why minutes-wise, Jaren Jackson Jr. has fairly limited minutes. Mm-hmm. It's not purely just because Michigan State likes to, do units, do quick sub-outs, and have those groups go together. It's because he can't stay on the floor for long periods of time because of his foul troubles.
Michigan State is a better team, though. They do have much depth, where Texas was pretty much Mo Bamba, the Mo Bamba show for most likely that whole season, where you had Nick Ward, you had Xavier as well coming off the bench for Michigan State. Jake, looking at this, I'm big into just going with stars. I'm big into, you brought up defense, and we see that with Budenholzer before. We saw that with Horford and Millsap, getting those two guys down low that were great defensively. Jeff Teague as well. Obviously not Kyle Korver, but he brought something to that team. Looking at this, though, I'm big into stars, and if you're rebuilding, you need that star. And looking at that 4th slot, we saw Michael Porter slip a little bit. We see some people in the comments calling me out saying that he's not going to be a star. What is your stance on Michael Porter Jr.? Do you think he's going to be a star at the next level?
I think he could be a star. I don't want to judge him because I don't judge a guy coming off of probably his biggest injury of his life, playing two games, I think it was. Mm-hmm. I don't want to judge him too much off of that, but I'm more sold on Mo Bamba, and as I said, I like to build around defense, so I think Mo Bamba would be the better pick for them. But I think Porter will be, I don't know if a star, but I think he'll be a formidable player in the NBA.
Did you, when you were watching him and looking at him play, we were saying that he looked more like a 4 out there. Do you think that he's going to be more of a 4 than a 3 than what he was originally projected to be?
I could see that. It depends on what team he falls to as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be interesting, too, because they do have John Collins there, and John Collins most likely isn't going to get moved. So he's a guy that they're at the 4 right now that he could still be around there for the Atlanta Hawks. So it's going to be interesting. I think if they're going to go with a player and they're going to go around defensively, I would probably think it'd be Mo Bamba just because he's more of a natural 5, and Jackson is more of a natural 4. Obviously, he can grow into a 5 as well, but at least looking at the typical structure, it would probably be Bamba at that 5. And going away from the bigs and defense, Ricky, you brought up Trae Young. Mm-hmm. What are we thinking about Trae Young right now? Because we saw that he late in the season started to struggle a lot, but again, his usage has been something unheard of. This guy has been putting so much pressure on at Oklahoma. I mean, this kid has the potential to be a star, but also he's 6'2", and he's going to be a point guard in the NBA. There's a lot of physical guards in the NBA.
Well, and the thing that's interesting about the Hawks in general when it comes to Trae Young, kind of bringing the two and merging them together, is the Hawks have 2 other picks in this first round. They got right now the 19th and then the 30th overall. Yeah, I know there was a comment like, oh, they could trade up, but what if they keep those and hit on those 2 picks where we have seen guys go later in the first, go early in the second, and they turn out to be great players, good players for their teams. I think if they go Trae Young with their first pick, I would go and try to hit on those 2 other picks, because the thing with Trae Young that I think is I hate when people go, oh, he's not going to do anything at the next level. No, he's going to do something. He just needs the right team and the right situation where it's like, I don't want to compare him to Steph Curry, but Steph Curry in a way where if Curry didn't have Klay Thompson, if Curry didn't have Draymond Green, he's a completely different player out there, and he's not winning championships like Golden State is. That's what Trae Young is. He's not going to be able to do it all himself. He's going to need a team around him, but he can be a great facilitator for any team he goes to.
Yeah, I think that's entirely fair to bring up. And honestly, the one concern is, Trae Young is, like Sean said, that unprecedented usage level. Like, that going to the Hawks team, do you think that could be a concern? Because, him on a very young team with a very team-centric coach, like, could that be a problem? Or do you think that that's, like, the perfect match for him?
Well, I think that would probably be the perfect match for him because he's going to be able to be put into an NBA team setting where he's going to understand, but also we're going to see how comfortable he is, and he can get comfortable early. And then if he's not comfortable, then he can fall back on that team. And they have Taurean Prince, they have John Collins. I mean, there's players still out there that can help him, but he's still a guy that can take over a game. And if he's able to build his confidence early and he's able to at least show what he's got early on, I think that might be best for a player like Trae Young. And Jake, we're going to go to you since you're a resident take commander, at least process fan. You've seen bad basketball over the past couple of years with the Philadelphia 76ers.
TGP.
You've seen, hey, you guys are making the playoffs this year, so it's not bringing up super sore wounds. You guys
Don't fix it yet.
You guys knew what was going on. But looking at it right now and looking at Trae Young and just thinking about players putting into that situation where there's not a huge team around them and the pressure that might be on them, do you think that Trae Young, looking at what he's done so far throughout his college career, could thrive in a situation where he's not going to have that team around him like your Sixers didn't have a couple of years ago?
Well, to keep it PG, I freaking love Trae Young. I think he is going to be a stud in the NBA. I think that the reason he's fallen a little bit in mock drafts is because people are looking at the tournament he got out in the first round. But I think I tweeted this a couple days ago, but that whole narrative of if you get knocked out in the first round or your team doesn't make the tournament, it does not mean anything. Ben Simmons is going to win Rookie of the Year this year, and he is by far the best rookie, and his team didn't even play in the tournament, didn't even play in the NIT. I think Trae Young needs the right pieces around him because I feel like you could see at the end of the year in Oklahoma his confidence was low. He was taking, I don't want to say low, but his shots were not looking the same as they were in the beginning of the year because I think I heard they had 457 assists, and he had 293 of them, and he was their leading scorer. I think I would say the perfect landing spot for him would be Cleveland if LeBron would come back, but LeBron isn't going to come back. I think he needs the right people around him to be able to thrive. I don't think he could thrive with a team like the Hawks, but that's just...
Well, and one thing I do want to throw out there, you're saying that LeBron's not coming back because he's going to be a Philadelphia 76er.
Yes, correct.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Just to clarify for the fans.
Well, exactly, because YouTube fans like to jump down our throats, so if at least we're clear with our bias, people are going to respect it. But thinking about what Jake just said, being a big fan of Trae Young on here, thinking about having a team around him, do you think the Atlanta Hawks could be a place that he could thrive, Ricky, as you're also the Trae Young bandwagoner?
The reason why I say he could thrive is, like I said, they do have the other picks. Either if they use those two picks or trade up and get somebody, let's say, in the top 15. If they use those two picks to trade up and move up, they get someone else. But you look at, I'm going to use the Warriors as the no cliche needed, or the, what's the word I'm looking for? I was going to say gold standard, but that's like a pun. Is that what I'm looking for?
Golden State Warriors, gold standard. I'll take
it. Using them as the example, it wasn't like, we got Steph, Clay, and Draymond in 1 year. It was, we got Steph, then 2 years later, all right, we drafted Clay, all right, then a year later we drafted Draymond. Just because you're taking Trae Young in this draft doesn't mean you will have a complete team day one for him. And I don't think he's going to be a guy that, and it's a lot of these draft picks, I'm going to draft you, you're not going to come in day one and be our savior. You're going to have to develop in the league, and I think he's going to. He could work in Atlanta, but it then depends, all right, what's the draft plan to build around Trae Young and give him the pieces to where we don't have an Oklahoma situation?
Well, let's build off that. Let's first end it with who they're going to take with that fourth overall pick, as they're slotted right now with the fourth overall pick. Obviously, it's not going to be for sure that they're going to be taking the fourth overall pick, but right now let's just play with Tankathon and say they're going to be the fourth overall pick. Jake, Atlanta Hawks on the clock at number 4. We'll say Doncic, Ayton, and somebody else are off the board. Who the Hawks going with?
They're going with Mohamed Bamba.
Okay, so you're going to go build around defense, so keep that in mind when we're talking about the 19th and 30th pick. Ricky, who are they going with it for?
You know what? Originally, I was going to say either a Triple J or a Bagley, but the more I've heard Jake talk about Mo Bamba, I'm going to agree and say Mo Bamba there at 4. And the reason why is I had this thought earlier on a primetime podcast, and someone in the comment section was like, "What are you talking about? There's no way he's like this player right now." But I look at Mo Bamba and like what he could be, and everything I see with defense, if he adds that 3, if he adds the body, I just see Anthony Davis. Like, that's what I see. A guy who can dominate this game like we're seeing with the Pelicans. However, you need a full team. Because I see that would be BPA for me, and I go with Mo Bamba.
That's a high comparison right there.
Calm yourself.
Dave, you had Mo Bamba outside of your top 10 in the 2.0.
Yeah, that's because I don't believe defensive centers will win you anything.
Okay, so with your 4th overall pick, are you going Mo Bamba?
No, I'm going Bagley, actually. I'm kind of splitting this one because, honestly, I think the high motor, the intensity, the ability to dominate inside, all comes in handy. I think because they signed that deal with Schroeder to get him there for a couple more years, I think you play it out. I think Schroeder's an above average point guard in the league. I know his shot has been developing this year, especially because all of the pressure on him being like the only veteran on that team left. But I think that Bagley would be a great fit to add to this team.
And he's locked down for 3 more years.
Yeah.
Schroeder is.
And if I'm going 4th overall pick, I'm saying Luka and Ayton are off the board. At 3, I don't know what the hell the Orlando Magic are going to do. Apparently, Jake just sent me this on Twitter. They're looking to fire Frank Vogel. So that's going to be a shake-up there.
It's the Magic.
Oh, they're not letting Trae Young slip.
I would say, thank you, Jeff. You're a
They're not
believer.
letting him slip.
All right, so it's either Trae Young there. So that if Trae Young does go there, then at 4, if I'm the Hawks, again, I'm looking for a star to build around.
You're going PJ.
I'm going Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
Yep.
Again, I know people don't believe him. I know the one kid from Mizzou, I keep forgetting his name, keeps calling me an idiot, saying that he's watched him this whole year. And hey, it's his opinion. He's totally worth having it. But my opinion is that this kid can develop into a star. You're seeing a 70% Michael Porter Jr. He has the mentality of a star. He's calling for the ball late in games, even when he's not healthy. People say that's going to be hurting your team, but that's what I want out there. I want a guy with that mindset. I want a guy who wants the ball in his hand and be that star. If I'm building a franchise, I'm going to take Michael Porter Jr. He's got the athleticism. When healthy, he can be an absolute star. He's got the length. You could put him next to John Collins. Also, Dennis Schroeder can facilitate to him. Torian Waller-Prince on the outside, a lengthy, decent scorer. I really like that. At least 4 guys right there. If Schroeder doesn't stay for that whole length of the contract, you still have again Michael Porter Jr. to fall back on. But let's talk about the other picks.
Really quick, I want to hot take it here. What if, though, he becomes like a Ben Simmons, where it's like we draft him, redshirts that first year, and they get a prime pick and get Zion Williamson next year?
I don't know if they need
That's
to redshirt
That's a Sixers special.
I was say I don't know if they need to redshirt him this year because they're gonna suck again next year.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, where it's like we're not gonna force you into an injury. You're gonna take this year and get your back right.
Well, hold on.
So that we can draft.
He's
somebody.
already playing.
The thing is that he's
That's
healthy.
a Sixers special. All right, nobody else does that.
Have you guys
Only
copyrighted that along with TTP?
Yeah, you see Markel Fultz right now? It's working straight as planned.
Oh, man. And that was one thing, too. I was thinking about this in the car. Markel Fultz, no one said that he was going to be a bust. No one said that, last year, we were being called. I'm not calling him a bust, but I'm just saying, no, everyone was saying that he's a for sure thing, and we haven't seen what he can fully do. Yep. And, that's something that,
for sure thing.
And then we were talking with about Jaylen Brown a couple years ago, saying that he was going to be a bust. Now he's probably the best player right now out of that draft. One of the best players out of that draft class because I don't want to slight Ben Simmons. But I'm just saying, again, we don't know what these guys are going to be. We can see what they're going to happen. But again, looking at what Michael Porter has, the skill set that I've seen him have, I think that he's going to be a star in this league. So that's why I would say go with Atlanta there.
I could see it.
At 4. But let's move now to 19 and 30. They have the Minnesota pick at 19 and the Rockets pick at 30. The talk is, and Ricky's brought this up a couple times, should they trade up? Jake, if you're going to build a team around defense, you're going to build a team around you're picking Mo Bamba. Do you think you need to trade up, or would you rather have 2 young players that you can possibly put into that defensive lineup you're trying to build?
Well, if you can trade up, it depends who you're willing to trade up because I think Mikal Bridges from, did he say his name? I can never say his name. Mikal, that one, yeah. From Villanova. I think he is also kind of the prototype 3-and-D player that you look at in the NBA today. So, I mean, if you could trade up, but he's going to go probably anywhere between 8 and 12 would be my guess. Okay. I think he's the prototype 3-and-D player. He's the guy I want the Sixers to get really bad, but probably won't. Mm-hmm. But Yeah, I think if you could, you trade up, but it depends how far you could trade up.
Let's say, like, you look at a team, I don't know, let's say LA Clippers, since they have 2 picks, maybe they want to move back and try to get some more assets. Let's say they get to that, like, 12 or 13 spot, so that puts them in the range of last podcast, I think we had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander around there, we had Wendell Carter Jr. around there, Kevin Knox fell around there. Those are the type of players. Do you think it's worth it to go up there, or would you think, just having those assets of those 2 players would be more worth it?
I think if you could get up and get one of the Bridges, that'd be the best. But if you can't get one of them, I don't really think Kevin Knox is worth trading up that high.
That's fair. Ricky, you've been bringing up the trade up thing. Are you going to do it? Are you going to pull the trigger?
The first thing I thought of was who would they trade up with? Because, like, the Clippers, you mentioned them. I think them and the Suns, it's going to come down to me, there'll be 3 teams, Clippers, Suns, and Hawks. It's like, all right, which one of those teams is moving up because they've got the double pick? More likely, it's probably going to be either the Hawks or the Suns. I don't know if anyone really high from the Clippers are going to be like, yeah, I'll take your 2 picks to give you maybe a top 5, top 6 pick. But the pick I look at is the Hornets. And the reason why is if the Hawks already know we're not going to compete next year and we're going to be bad, if you really like a guy at 11, let's say a Gilgeous-Alexander, let's say if Kevin Knox is still there, let's say if Colin Sexton is still on the board, if you really like a guy at 11, why not say, hey, we're going to be bad next year. Let's trade these next 2 picks, get the guy that we like, and the only bad thing is we might have to take on a contract or 2 that the Hornets want to dump off. And it would basically be you're letting us get the 11th pick, and we're taking some contracts that you don't want and you don't want to have on your team's salary.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably going to be the most likely thing is you're going to take a Nick Batum, you're going to take a Marvin Williams, a player like that, and try to get him off the hands of Charlotte. I think that'd be a nice move for Charlotte, but then again, we talked about Colin Sexton probably falling in there.
He
Dave.
could, yeah.
So, I mean, like, it's going to be tough to find a for-sure suitor, but I'm in the mindset of keep those 2 picks at 19 and 30 and get players that will fit into your team. We saw last year that Josh Hart went late in the first round. We've seen Malcolm Brogdon go late in the first round. A guy that fits that mold right now, Javon Carter, he can be a backup point guard for you at that 30 spot. And then at 19, we see these guys like Anthony Simmons, Mitchell Robinson, these young high school players that are coming out early and saying, like, I'm going to try to be an NBA player. They're still young. You can mold them into the system that you want. I'm more of the idea of try to hit on the potential at 19 and 30, maybe even a Hamidou Diallo at 30. Are you in the same boat as that, or are you thinking trade up too?
You are reading my mind as far as right now this team needs players. They need bodies in there. They don't need to trade up for a second swing at a guy in the top 10 talent because you're already going to get a top 5 pick probably. We'll see how the ping pong balls roll for them. But I think right now if you can add 2 more picks in that first round, you go for it. And that second round pick is 33. So, like, again, you are not far off of having 3 picks in the 3 picks right in that grouping. It's very nice. And I think you could get a lot of guys, like you said. There are veteran players in the NCAA who would be an instant asset to this team who could get on the court, play serious minutes for them, and look pretty well. And on the other hand, like you said, Anthony Simmons is the guy that I'm looking at. With that 19th pick, I've heard rumors going up and down if he's going to sneak into late lottery, and the other people are like, no, he's probably like 25 range. So I think that's prime range at 19 right now. If you could get a player like him who you can develop, who you can build muscle, get him smarter, get him bigger, he is a guy who could develop really well into the NBA.
You know what I'm thinking?
What's that?
The more and more I look at what players could be around for these next 2 picks, I kind of think that Trae Young wouldn't be a bad pick with the one we talked about earlier because looking at who could be there, yeah, if you go with a big, you can go with like a Lonnie Walker and then later on maybe like a Jalen Brunson or a Devontae Graham for point guard. Or you can say, hey, we're going to take Trae Young. Then at 19, Mitchell Robinson's there. There's our big. And then at 30, this is the one that might need a little bit of luck. Or you can take 30 and 33 to try to trade above someone and take a Kyrie Thomas. There's your defense. You have your point guard in Trae Young, and you have a big, young big in Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah, I'm just more going the asset of getting 2 players. And if I'm going Michael Porter Jr. at 4, then I'm looking at that 19 spot. I want a guard at some point, either 1 or 2. A guy that we talked about, Anthony Simmons, a combo guard at 19. Again, if you think that you need to move up, you still have that 33 pick to move up, get the 19 and 33, and move up where Denver is and possibly jump on a couple teams. Like, that could be a team. And then at 30, I want a veteran, so I'm going to look at Javon Carter. I'm looking at Grayson Allen. I'm looking at Jalen Brunson. I think those are the players that really stick out in my mind that could possibly help this Atlanta Hawks team. Jake, are there any players that just in this whole, back half of the lottery or, outside of the lottery, are there any players that are really catching your eyes? I know you mentioned Mikal Bridges, Trae Young, you're really liking those guys. Are there any guys deep, like that 15 to 30 range, that you're really digging and that you think might fit for the Hawks?
I like Gary Trent Jr. out of Duke. I think he's a good prospect, a little bit 6'6" guard. He can play defense. He can shoot the three.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Grayson Allen. I don't like him at all.
Do you like
He's
his
out there
play?
tripping the competition.
Remove the name from him.
You
Do
don't
like his
you
play?
don't like his trips and his hip checks, man?
He's going to play his final college game tonight, so I mean,
we'll see.
Probably not, but I think again going by defense, I think he brings good 3-and-D defense, and I don't think they need to reach for a guard with their first pick. I think Dennis Schroeder is fine, but if they really wanted to reach for a guard with that 30 or 33 pick, Tony Carr out of Penn State is a pure scoring guard. I like him a lot. But yeah, I think Gary Trent Jr. and I think even if you want to pick a guard with the 19 pick, I think Trayvon Duval would be a nice pick.
Interesting.
I'm not totally sold on Simmons.
Trayvon Duval, can you give us your thoughts on him? Because he's somebody who's kind of slid down our board as the season's progressed. We were really high on him early in the season.
He fell out.
Yeah.
Can you give us
I think he's a very raw prospect, and I think he's another he's kind of fallen victim to the fact that he's their fifth option on offense because he's playing with two lottery picks and Grayson Allen, who's a fourth year senior. Mm-hmm. So I think he's just kind of fallen down because he's playing his role with the team. But I think again, as the fourth or fifth option, he's still putting up 10 points per game. He's still getting his 6 assists. He's playing pretty efficiently. I mean, I like him, but I don't think he's a stud. But he could easily be a bench scorer.
Well, and that's
in the NBA.
That's one thing when I look at him too is you look at him as a fifth option. You're like, you see the numbers he's putting up, then you're questioning, is it because of the four other players around him in Trent Jr., Grayson Allen, Wendell Carter, and Bagley? That's why I'm thinking and looking at Trayvon Duval. Maybe if he comes out, if he doesn't come out, maybe if he tests the combine and then comes back and he doesn't like a spot, he might be a player that, hey, if he comes back and with Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, I can't think of the other guy right now, but he pairs up and that's starting. Yeah, thank you. They stay up in that lineup, and he's like their leader at least offensively, just being a sophomore because there's gonna be 3 freshmen in that lineup. I think he could possibly be a guy that not puts himself in the lottery next year, but at least improves his draft stock. Where maybe he's the 17th pick, or maybe he's nearing in on that lottery just because he's going to have the ability to shine a little bit more, and he's still going to have decent players around him because he's got the top 3 prospects coming out of high school.
But on the flip side of that, he could Grayson Allen. Where last year, I think you and I want to say the Clippers, whatever pick they had, 20-something we had them. And now this year, it's because of all the talent they have, he's second rounder, late first, depending on what mock draft you look at.
I think that's more attached to his name. He's not going to, purely because of his name, his reputation, there's no way he can get higher than what he is. See, for me, what I see on Trayvon Duval is he looks like Alfred Payton with a better wingspan and better body, and less stupid hair, obviously. But that's my concern.
You can actually see through that.
I think that's the whole thing is when you look at these bottom picks, you have to set your expectations right. Are you trying to swing for a home run? Are you trying to fill out that bench, build out that roster deeper? Are you going for the Raptors style where they're like, we're going to make this a deep roster and we're going to be competitive all the game, every single game. And I think that's what this Hawks team can do. They can go out and get guys who they're going to get at a pretty big discount late in this draft because they're not necessarily going to have that star power, potential to them, but they're going to be excellent role players and be able to fill the needs for this Hawks team.
Jake, we do this on every single podcast. Final thoughts about the Atlanta Hawks draft?
They're still going to suck next year.
Fair enough.
No matter what they do. I mean, they have. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. What are you saying?
I would say they have a ton of options. They are full. They are one of the only teams that are in a full. They have literally probably 0 building pieces. You might be able to say Dennis Schroeder, John Collins, but neither of them are going to be stars. So they could go anywhere with us.
Ricky, final
They're
thoughts?
a team that's got their building block has to be taken at 4. Whoever you're taking, that's who we're building around. That's who has to be. Right now, it's their 4th overall pick.
David?
I think, it's pretty much blank canvas plus Schroeder. And that one, the problem is, even if you might not get top value when you try to ship them out because there's so many good point guards in this league. So I think you like Ricky said, building block plus and just go to town in free agency. You got money to blow.
And my final thoughts is exactly what Ricky said. If you're going to go with 4, you got to get a building block of your franchise, and that's why I'm going Michael Porter Jr. just because of the star talent. But anyways, Jake, we want to thank you for being on. That's going to wrap up the podcast. If you want to be like
I got
Jake,
one quick question.
Jesus, I said wrap it up.
And this is this has nothing to do with the Hawks. I just want to ask this in draft kind of talk, and I wonder what Jake thinks. Listening today to different podcasts, there's people that think this is tinfoil hat, that the league is going to say that, I can't remember which one, that basically, let's say Memphis, because they've been tanking, hey, you know what, we're going to rig the lottery to where you don't get the number 1 pick.
Well, I mean,
is it possible that the NBA does that? Like, do you think the NBA would really do that and say, like, well, you've been tanking, you don't get the number 1 pick?
If you tinfoil hard enough, I'm sure there's reason to believe this stuff. All I know is the Kings aren't going to get 1, the Suns aren't going to get 1, just because that's a proven thing. I'm not going to worry about those 2. The other teams, I think it's up in the air.
Well, and then also if they are rigging it or whatever, they're not going to give the Bulls a pick.
Because they've already yelled at us.
Because they already yelled
publicly.
They're not going to give it to Memphis because no one wants to play in Memphis.
They'll just give it to the Sixers.
Yeah, it'll probably be the Sixers.
What? We had the number 1 pick. We never had the number 1 pick.
It would either be.
Oh wait, that's right. Because if they give it,
Simmons.
no wait,
You're
it's
right.
a team
Ben Simmons,
Boston.
GT.
I was gonna say if they give you the number 1 pick, it goes to Boston, but that's if it's a 2 or a 3.
Yeah, number 1's still 6.
2 through 5. Yeah.
Or it'd probably just be Brooklyn and just give LeBron a nice new toy to play with.
Oof.
But anyways, that's going to wrap up the podcast. If you want to be like Jake, hit up patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. We want to thank Jake for his support and jumping on, talking about the Atlanta Hawks. And Jake, I do want to extend our best wishes from the Most Valuable Podcast family to your 76ers when they make the playoffs.
Thank you for that.
I appreciate it.
You don't think they will?
I'm knocking on wood.
Magic number's 1.
Not to jinx it.
All right.
Magic number's 1?
Magic number's 1.
Oh man, that's close. We'll see if they blow and choke the lead. Maybe they'll redshirt their whole team. What's that?
They're not the Bulls.
Hey, Bulls made it in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
and I predicted that. Remember that?
yeah, you did.
Yeah, that was impressive.
That was the tinfoil. But anyways, if you want to be like Jake, head over to patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Also check out mostvaluablepodcast.com. If you want to check out our store, we also are revamping with new logos. Check out that MVP hype trailer. That's going to be dropping on Monday, March 26th. Might even be already out. And also, final thing is rate us 5 stars on iTunes, Fast Break Podcast, the Onside Kick, the Primetime Podcast, and the Rick and Johnny Podcast, as well as the Outcast. And also check out the Outcast, the new podcast with MVP Buzzweed and Juice Man.
Juice Man?
Juice Man. Over there at the Outcast. But anyways, for Dave Oster, for Ricky Widmer, for Jake the GOAT patron, I'm gonna say it. In my humble opinion, I'm not playing favorites.
Was he the OG?
But he's the only one that comes on our podcast. So
Fair enough. You're right.
So he's the GOAT.
only one that matters.
And I am Sean Anderson. We will see you
Damn right.
next time.